The skies of Zareth burned purple as the twin suns dipped behind the jagged peaks of the Shadow Pine Mountains. The alien world groaned in its twilight, the ground shivering with ancient breath. Amid the volcanic rock and steaming vents, an encampment flickered with dim bio-lanterns. Around it, 6 beings moved, scaled, horned, and massive. The Drakeborn, Zareth's deadliest apex predators. Each was a dragon in its own right, forged in fire and evolved through war. The 6 surrounding the camp were the last of their kind, known in the galaxy as the Death Scales, the most feared predators of any known world. But inside the camp, a small human girl. She was no older than 6. Brown hair tangled with soot and fear, tiny hands clutching a piece of torn blanket. She didn't cry anymore, not since the first night. That was 5 days ago, when the Death Scales descended upon Earth's colony ship Aurora 9, tearing it from orbit and scattering its crew. She was the only one they didn't kill. Her name was Amara Lynn, and no one could figure out why she was still alive. High above one of the Death Scales, Vissart the Flame Howler circled the camp. His wings beat molten air, casting shadows like falling stars. When he landed, the ground cracked beneath him. "Still no change," he growled, his voice vibrating in deep tones only dragons and seismic monitors could interpret. "No," replied Solkara the Venom Eye, her body coiled around the girl's cage. Her emerald scales shimmered in the dim light. "She eats. She drinks. She stares. No threat. No magic. No signal. Why did the seers want her?" Vissarth hissed. "Why kidnap prey if it does not scream prophecy?" "The seers do not answer questions," said Gordhak the Blackbone, emerging from the shadows. "They said only, bring the small, broken-souled light. She will end or awaken the fire. Whatever that means." "Cryptic as always," muttered Solkara. "But we obeyed. We burned their skies, raided their ship, and found her. And now we wait." Inside the cage, Amara sat cross-legged, fingers drawing patterns in the volcanic dust. She didn't look up when they approached anymore. She'd grown used to their scents, sulfur, char, and venom, as much as a child could. But that night, something changed. Around midnight, the steam vents sang a different tune. The usual hiss was replaced by something sharper, like whispers inside a hurricane. One of the Death Scales crawled a wingless, snapped his head toward the noise. "Something stirs beneath." "An enemy?" asked Gordhak. "Not enemy," rumbled Crawl. "Memory." Before he could ask what he meant, the cage glowed. A soft light, pale, golden, radiating not from the metal, but from Amara herself. Her eyes were shut, her breathing slow, and her small hands traced lines in the dirt, lines that glowed brighter with each pass. "What is she doing?" hissed Solkara, uncoiling defensively. "Drawing," whispered Vissarth. "No, not drawing. Summoning." The Death Scales were no strangers to power. They had ended empires, eaten stars, and torn through time gates left by the ancients. But what emerged from the symbols Amara drew was unlike anything they had seen. A pulse of golden light surged upward, splitting the air like an unsheathed sword. From it, a voice echoed not in sound but in memory. "The light does not come to destroy the fire. It comes to teach it warmth." The words entered each dragon's mind with the weight of truth. For a moment, the Death Scales did not move. Then Amara stood, still glowing faintly. She looked at them, really looked, as if for the first time. "I remember now," she said softly. Vissarth stepped forward. "Remember what, little one?" Amara's eyes shimmered. "I'm not from your future, or your past. I'm from what comes after. I was sent back, because the flame dies alone. But if it learns, it can live." "Sent by whom?" asked Gordhak. Amara looked up at the stars. "By the stars themselves." after they learned your story. That night, the death scales did not sleep. Amara sat among them, no longer caged. She spoke, though not like a child. Her voice carried stories of things not yet born. Civilization seated in ash, peace built on fire-forged wisdom, and the death scales remembered not as monsters, but as guardians. But you must change, she said, not unkindly. You must become more than fury. Change is weakness. So Kara spat. We survive by being unchanging. You survived, said Amara, but you never lived. In the following days, the dragon began to test her words. Visarth stopped hunting for pleasure, so Kara brought her venom to wounded creatures, healing rather than killing. Gorthak taught her ancient runes of the dragon tongue. Kral, once silent, began humming melodies thought lost in the Black War. And Amara, she began to laugh again. The seers arrived on the 10th night. They came from the void, draped in cloaks made of stars, eyes of comet dust. They were not pleased. She was meant to ignite your end, said the lead seer, not tame your hearts. You lied, growled Visarth. We never lie, the seer replied. We saw the fires fall. The girl was the match. But matches may kindle or destroy. That was always a choice. And we chose to change, rumbled Gorthak. Then you defy fate. We rewrite it, said Amara, stepping forward. With fire and light, the seers hissed. Then burned together. They raised their hands to cast judgment. But the death scales moved first, not with fire, but with memory. They joined claws, circled the girl, and sang. A deep, haunting harmony, an old song from the first flame, the one that birthed them all. A song only dragons could sing. But now they sang it with her. The seers were pushed back by its resonance. Their starlit forms flickered, unstable. You were wrong, whispered Amara. The flame does not die. It learns. In a final flash, the seers vanished, consumed by the very fire they feared. The death scales were free. And so was Amara. Years passed. Legends grew. Across galaxies, stories spread of a little girl who tamed the most fearsome dragons, not with weapons, not with war, but with understanding. Amara lived among them until her bones turned silver. She taught them language, patience, kindness. She helped them teach others. Planets once wary of their approach came to welcome the great dragons as allies, defenders, and storytellers. They were no longer called death scales. They became the Starflame kin. And when Amara's time finally came, she did not die alone. Each of the 6 dragons sang her to sleep beneath the twin suns. A memorial stone was carved from the mountain's heart, etched in a new tongue, one shared by flame and flesh.